In today's episode of Building Steam, we're going to be talking about strategies and techniques for using your serger. Why is it so small? It's so small. Tweezers. And then, won't go. Go around the stabby thingy. Why won't it catch? I'm sweating. Why am I sweating? Oh, great gods of creativity, I beseech thee, bestow upon this machine a blessing, which will cause it to run with great efficiency and without a tangle or a break. Why? Why are you doing that? I played with your tension dials. I've given you everything you need. Why are you still unhappy? Demon from the pit of hell, I cast thee out! Out, I say! Begone from this machine! A little much? Maybe not. Hi, internet friends. Welcome back to Building Steam and welcome to my studio. I'm Lady Delatour, and I'm here today to talk about using your serger. I hope my opening sequence gave you a little bit of a laugh. If you've used a serger before, you may understand some of those frustrations. And if you haven't used it before, hang on to your sense of humor because you're going to need it. The serger can be a little bit of an intimidating machine to get started with. So I just thought I'd do a short video today, just going over how to thread and talking about the tension and encouraging people to laugh themselves, first of all, and to not be afraid of this machine because it really can be a very useful time-saving device. Although you don't need it to finish your seams, it can just be nice to sometimes just be able to run a seam through the serger and have it be done with. So what makes working with a serger so intimidating? Well, for one thing, it's got a knife. So really all you have to do is approach it in the same way that you would approach anyone who has a knife. Calmly, but with a gun. Now I don't want any more trouble out of you, mister. Just kidding. I mean, it does have a knife, and you have to be aware of it, and you have to be careful as you are running your project through the machine that you don't cut something unintentionally. But once you get used to using it, it really is a great little device. As you can probably tell, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with my serger. I love it when it works, and I hate it when it doesn't. So I've developed some strategies for minimizing my frustration during my making process, and I'm going to talk about those things today. I have a feeling that higher end sergers are probably easier to thread, maybe have fewer temper tantrums. I have a fairly low end Singer, and it does do the job. So you don't have to have expensive equipment, but sometimes when you do have lower end equipment, you just need to take the extra time to make sure that it functions for you properly. So let's get into that. This is my Singer ProFinish, a fairly basic machine that I think a lot of people probably start out with. If you have a different machine, it may not have all of the exact same functionality, it may not have all of the same methods of threading it, but it's going to be fairly similar. This is a 4-thread serger. Here, there's 4 threads. So it does have the ability to have 2 needles here, so that it has 2 threads on the top and then 2 threads looping on the bottom. I'm not going to lie to you, I've never done 4 threads because why would I bother threading 4 when I could just do 3? I don't know. I've never had a project that seemed to call for it, so that is what it is. I just don't do it. But you can put an extra needle on here and have 4 threads if you need it for whatever reason. I'm going to take that away though. Why not minimize confusion? Okay, so we have our tension dials here. They are all color-coded, blue, green, red, and yellow, and I did use corresponding colored threads here on the back to make it easier for you to get a visual on how this happens. We've got this handy-dandy little thing right here. It goes up and down. I don't know why. Sometimes it needs to be short. Sometimes it feels like it needs to be tall. I don't know. We'll take it down here so you can see it. There we go. Has a little door right here. This pulls this way and pulls open so that you can access the inner works, so that you can thread the loopers. And on the side, it has dials which regulate how large the stitches and how far apart they are. And this is the one this is the dial that takes the needles up and down. And the on switch. Let's do that. Ah, light. Now, I do have the foot pedal up here on the desk because although they recommend that you turn it off when you are threading it, then I find that I can't see very well because then the light's off. So I just take the foot pedal and I put it up on the desk out of the way so that I don't accidentally put my foot on it and chop my fingers off, because that would really, really put a crimp in my sewing plans for the day. I did used to leave it on the floor out of the way of my foot, but then once my dog sat on it, and that was terrifying. So I don't do that anymore. All right, it also has this plate here. This is detachable, like on a sewing machine. There is a lever underneath here. Very counterintuitively, you have to push it towards the machine and then pull it away, and then everything falls out of it. Super efficient. We have our screwdriver for adjusting the needles, and we have our extra needles in here. And then if you have something narrower that you are sewing, like a sleeve or something, you can just do it around this piece instead of this big, huge piece. Stick this back on. Okay, lever back here so that the foot goes up and down. Cool. All right, so I am going to open up this door here. I did thread all of these through the thread holders here at the top. There is a clip on the back. See these little clips? So each thread goes through that clip to hold it in place. And then it comes down through the tension disc, goes down into this groove and through the tension disc. Important to get it into the disc, otherwise it's not going to have any tension. Okay, so that's already taken care of. You would think that you would thread this from left to right, starting with your furthest needle and then moving this way, but that is not the case. You thread the loopers first, this one and then this one, and then you do your needles. So I'm going to go ahead and open this door and we can zoom on in and talk about threading those loopers. Okay, so as you can see, there is a diagram on the inside that shows you exactly where every single thread is supposed to go. And like I said, we're going to start with this red thread here. So this says 1 here, and it's going to come down. It goes through the little hook here. And then there are dots on each of the red hooks that it is supposed to go through. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to pull this down. 1, 2, 3. And then it's going to go up. You can see this lever here. I'm going to move it back and forth. It's going to go in the hole at the very end here of this lever. This is a point where I usually have to grab the tweezers just because it makes it easier. That comes with, these are my tweezers. It just makes it easier to grab it on the other side, because there's not a lot of room for your fingers. Pull that through. And just pull that to the back. This, by the way, right here, this is the knife that we were talking about. You can pull it this way and pull it up, move it out of the way. Or you can put it back down and then be able to cut when you serge. So we've got that red one all threaded. That is actually the simpler one to do. The one that tends to cause the most problems is this final looper thread. It is the one that most often breaks or is in the wrong spot and causes the whole thing not to work. There are definitely more dots here. So it goes through this hook here, and then there's a yellow dot here, 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 and one kind of in the works over here that is really hard to get an angle on. It's really hard to see. I don't don't know if I can get it at all. It's right there. Okay. Let's get that back. Back up. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to take this, pull it down, put it through this hook, thread retainer right there, and I'm going to put it through this one right here. This one here, one right next to it. And then the one that's deep inside here. All right, so now we get to the tricky part. I'm going to move this wheel here. You can see that there is a piece right here. Let's call that the stabby bit. Okay, there is a hole at the end of the stabby bit that the thread is going to go through, but first you have to put it around the back. So this goes around the back of the stabby thing, and you have to push it this way towards this side of the machine. I use my tweezers, I grab underneath and I push it that way, and there is a little notch there that it needs to catch in. And you know when it's caught because then it starts resisting. It doesn't just pull right straight back out. Most of the videos that I watched online when I was learning how to thread this would show each thread separately by itself without visual of the other threads, which I found confusing because I didn't know which one was supposed to really go on top. So that's why I'm doing this all together, because this one needs to go in the back. The red one needs to go in the back of the yellow one. So this I have put along the back in the notch, and then it needs to go through this little hole right here. I'm going to pull it so that the upper looper is just underneath it, which allows me to put this through and grab it with my tweezers and pull it to the back. Is that all together? Is that all together? Looks good. All right. So I do need to make sure that these threads are actually underneath. There's a little box here. If I lift up the foot, I need to make sure that they sit underneath the foot properly so that they don't get stuck, because they will get stuck and then you're like, what? And then I would pull this up. So the green thread has come down through the tension disc into these three holders, and then it goes through the top. If I'm here, goes through the top and down. And then I'm going to put it through the right hand side where it says A, just a little swirly spiral thing. Give myself a fresh end, and then thread that needle from front to back the way that you would with a regular sewing machine. Again, it can be a little challenging because of how this sits. It can be challenging to thread this needle, and sometimes I need to use the tweezers to pull it through because it's hard to reach with your fingers. Okay, I'll just get that threaded and I will show you the machine working itself. So here we are, we have the machine all threaded up, and I'm just going to grab some fabric here so that I can show you how this works. So when you start sewing with the serger, you already have the foot down. You don't want to have the foot up. You're not placing the fabric underneath the foot for the most part. You are starting with this already down. So you drop the foot down and you place the fabric right here at the edge of the foot. Now the knife is right here, so if you want to be cutting right along your seam line, you want to be kind of lining up your seam line with this, there's a little groove right here, and that will give you a pretty accurate line there. And so we're just gonna gently press on the presser foot, which I have put back down on the floor. Now that moves a lot faster in general than a regular sewing machine, so that also can be intimidating because you can feel like it's going to get away from you very quickly. So I do try to be pretty gentle with my foot on the gas because that's just barely pressing it. Really fast. Yeah, that's nuts. Okay, so not a whole lot of variation of speed on this. Press it a little bit more and cut off my tail, and you can see I have a nice serged edge. But a really good way to learn about tension is to, in fact, thread your serger with these different colors so you can see where each of the threads is going to. The green thread, this needle thread, is creating the stitch along the bottom that holds both of the loops. Here is the red loop, the upper loop, and the yellow, the lower loop. And it could be a little bit better here, but it really does allow you to see which, if you're using different colors, it allows you to see which way the tension needs to go. Like when I first started, this yellow was really pulling to the front, which meant that the tension was too high on the red. So I had to drop the tension down on the red, and then I did it a little bit more. This could probably be played with like just a tiny bit more. But that's pretty good. I'd be pretty happy with that. And I do have the stitch length set pretty close. I could make it farther away, but I like a nice heavy serge where there's lots of close together threads there. So what are my strategies for assuring that that smooth operation continues throughout my sewing work? Well, the first thing that I did was practice threading the machine a whole lot. If you never actually master the threading of the machine, every single time that a thread breaks or you want to change your thread color, it becomes a big, huge hassle. So it really is worth the time invested to sit down with it and rethread it over and over again until it becomes a much more natural and easy action. And then you don't have to feel upset or worried that something might go wrong with it. The other thing that I do is that before I start any project, I rethread my machine with the appropriate colors, and I cut off some scraps of the fabric that I'm going to be working with, and I run them through the machine to make sure that the tension is going to be correct, because that tension setting is going to change depending on the fabric. And I want to make sure that the size of my serge, maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger, maybe I want it to be smaller, farther apart, closer together. If I make those adjustments first on scrap, I'm really saving myself a lot of heartache in the middle of my project. It really sucks when you're in the middle of working, you just want to run over to the serger, take care of getting that seam serged, and it's not right. The threads aren't set up yet, the tension isn't set up, and you actually put it through your serger and it's wrong, and you've already cut into your fabric, and then maybe you don't have enough left on the seam line to properly serge that, and the tension isn't right and it's all wonky. Just take that time. Take the time to practice. Take the time to get set up before you begin and run those test strips through to make sure that you have the tension set properly on your machine. It really does save you time and effort in the long run. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any other questions about your serger, you can feel free to drop them in the comments. I'm not exactly a master serger, but I'd be happy to try and help out. And if you're just looking for some encouragement, this is me telling you that you can do this. Just take the time, practice, and you will master it. So often the things that we are intimidated about or scared or nervous about, once we actually do them in real life, they just aren't as hard in real life as they were in our head. If you liked this video, found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. If you are enjoying the content that we are putting out on this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and that way you'll get notified whenever we put new content out. Until next time, keep on making, stay chill, my stitchy witches. Whoosh.